Okay, let's start. Here's today's practice parse sentence. Is it visible, these words?
Especially like nasty.
Nasty. Okay, what category, what part of speech does she belong to? So this is also an N bar. Through? What? Hey, what? Every? Yeah. Dog. And doesn't have a part of speech. Nasty. Okay. Elf. From. Preposition. Hadley's a noun. And so an N bar. Okay. Good. What should I do next? Volunteers. Sir?
Make the N bar into an noun phrase.
The N bar. Oh, this one. Okay. Great. That's going to be, everything else is going to be in the verb phrase, right? So this is the phrase that starts this sentence. The subject, if you like, she. Yeah, what else would you like to do?
Me?
Yeah, that seems so easy. Why let you off the hook just with... Yeah.
I'm gonna make the From Hadley into a prepositional phrase.
Okay. Shall I do it like this? No. So a preposition can be followed by a noun phrase, but not by an N bar. Fortunately, an N bar can be a noun phrase all by itself, so I'll do that. Thank you very much. Is there a volunteer in the row there with the gentleman and the three women to his left? Did you say sure? Does that mean you? Oh, fantastic. So what would you like to do next? Oh, I am really way deafer than that.
Does that say dog or dog?
This says dog, yeah.
Well, you got a noun phrase and then attach every to it. So you found
Okay, I can put these two together and I get what?
Well, if you make the noun bar a noun phrase and then attach it,
Oh, so make this a noun phrase, and then what should I do?
attach every noun phrase.
And I would get... Okay, so this would say prepositional phrases can be things that start with determiners and continue with noun phrases. Every is a determiner. But actually, the rule we have for prepositional phrases, the only rule, doesn't do that. It says that they start with prepositions and follow with noun phrases. Yeah. Okay. You lied, yeah. Tell me the truth, ma'am. It is. Okay, good. Adjective plus N bar, those two can combine. In fact, adjectives always and only combine with N bars that follow them. So if you see an adjective, you know there's an N bar that follows it to which it is attaching. There's no other choice. And when those two go together, they make an N bar. So here we've made nasty elf an N bar. That was a good move. You did not lie. You may make one more move. Yes, I'll let you do so. Are these your friends that sit on either side of you? Are they trying to help you? You can enlist their aid.
Nasty out and from Hadley.
these two could combine. Is that what you want me to do? It is possible. So a prepositional phrase, one of the places it can be, one of only two places a prepositional phrase can be, is joining with an n-bar to make a bigger n-bar. The other place it can be is joining with a verb phrase to make a bigger verb phrase. If you see a prepositional phrase, those are your two choices. They're either next to a VP or an n-bar. In this case, you choose n-bar. Together they make a larger n-bar. Fantabulous. Now, oh, I see. Your computer has come out. Is that it? It's always out. How about the other computer lady up there? What would you like to do? Now it's now you. Little irritating popping noises. Here, I'll point to something that will be helpful, or just completely confusing, one of the two. We have this word and. Okay, now the magic of and is that there's going to be something that holds and that thing will always be the same thing as the two things that and brings together, the two things on either side. So what and does is it takes one kind of thing and another kind of thing, and all three of them together make a third one of those. Well, if you look at what's to the right of and, there is this. So we know that and must be building an n-bar out of this n-bar and another one that comes right to the left of it. Do you see how I got there? So, what shall I do? I guess so, but I couldn't hear everything you said. I'm actually shouting, you see, so you should do that too, yeah. I should connect this n-bar with what? Just say it again, what you said. I just can't hear you. I should connect dog and phrase nasty elf? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay, yes. Yeah. So this nasty elf right now is inside this n-bar. So I can't do anything with it. It's already been assigned a position in this sentence. So the n-bar that I would have to use here is this one. Yeah, okay, so nasty elf from Hadley. Yeah, so these three things could go together and they make an n-bar. Okay. So general rule about and, when you see and, look for a way of making the words that come before and after it make the same kind of thing. If you can do that, then and can join them, and what you'll get is another one of these guys. Okay. That's what we did here. Sir?
You said that an n-bar can become a noun phrase. Can you make a noun phrase into an n-bar if it makes it more confusing?
Do you mean like this?
Yeah.
You cannot. Do not do that. Yeah. I have an army of goons, and they will find you. Great. Okay, good. So far, so good. Sir?
Connect the term with the audible.
Yeah, so now we look at what we've got. All of this has been put into something now. It's all part of this big old n-bar. So following every is that n-bar. And determiners, they always do just one thing. They combine with n-bars that follow them. And together, those two things make an NP. If you see a determiner, that's what's going to happen, because that's the only thing determiners ever do. So these two guys go together. We have an NP. Sir?
Is every always a determiner?
Every is always a determiner.
Never be an adjective?
It can never be an adjective. Okay? It looks like maybe it should be, but trust me. No, forget that. Please never trust me. In this case, it's always a determiner.
Okay, and what makes it a determiner?
Well, what makes it a determiner is the fact that determiners are things that start noun phrases. They are always the word that, if they're in a sentence, is the very first thing in a noun phrase. Every is pretty much like that. Okay, so like we have every story, but we don't have big every story, right? We have every big story, maybe. You see? So that's one of the kind of key ingredients in being a determiner, that you are the guy that starts a noun phrase, if you're there. What should I do next? Sir?
Make through into the first phrase.
Like this?
Noun phrase. Noun phrase.
So like this. This actually isn't quite possible, but it's very close to what we have. So what this rule says about verb phrases is that if they have noun phrases in them, the things that they will be joined... Huh? Okay. What they will be joining with, I'm now forgetting what you said. What they will be joining with is a noun phrase. Oh, sir? I'm just completely forgetting everything, and we're going back to when your hand was raised. Okay. And now we have a sentence. Noun phrase, verb phrase. We okay? Marvelous. So what does this sentence mean? Well, she threw, what did she throw? She threw this thing. What's this thing? She threw every dog and nasty elf from Hadley. Here she is. Dog 1, nasty elf from Hadley 1. Dog 2, nasty elf from Hadley 2. She does that until they're all tossed. Okay? There's two other meanings. There's two other parses. Those other meanings differ on how these verb phrases are put together. So let me back up a little bit and see if we can find another way of putting these things together so that we get a different meaning. Ma'am?
Combine the dog and the noun bar, or the N bar.
These two.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I've done, you see, right, is I've not put this prepositional phrase together with this. And so now there's not an N bar following and that's made up of all this crap, but just the crappy nasty elf. And so now and is flanked by these two N bars, and so we could do that. Yeah.
Just to clarify the meaning of the first one we did, was that saying that the elves and dogs were from Hadley, or she was tossing them away from Hadley?
It says that the elves are from Hadley. It doesn't say anything about the dogs. Okay? So, the dogs, this one's from Amherst, that one's from Poughkeepsie. The dogs, they be from anywhere you want, but they're all getting tossed. But the only elves that are getting tossed are the elves from Hadley. Okay, what should I do next here? Sir, ma'am, or I can't see. You in the back corner. You.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you could join every to the big and or the dogs and noun phrase.
Right. So these two could go together. Yep.
And then you could join the verb through that noun phrase to create a verb phrase.
These two can go together.
And you can join that verb phrase
Yeah, so remember, prepositional phrases, as I told you a moment ago, they're always in one of two places. Place one, they're next to an n-bar, and together those two make a bigger n-bar. Place two, they're next to a verb phrase, and together they make a larger verb phrase. That's what we got here. So this verb phrase and that noun phrase combine to make this sentence. What does this mean? Well, here's what she threw. This thing. What is this? Every dog and nasty elf. And what this prepositional phrase is saying is it's telling you where those things were being thrown from. Okay? So, you have really good eyes, and actually the line for Hadley happens to be right here. Okay? Remember that underneath these clothes hides a woman. And so, so what this sentence says is that I am taking dogs and nasty elves and tossing them from over here, Hadley. You got it? Yeah. And you hear those two meanings? So, like, the difference here is, like, in this case, the verb phrase that's inside the sentence, one of them is, through every dog and nasty elf. That's what's happening. And this is saying where that's happening from. And the parse we had a moment ago, the verb phrase was made up of every dog and nasty elf from Hadley. Okay. I want you to write this sentence down and think about it and tell me on Friday what the third parse is. So there's one more parse whose meaning is different from these two. Okay? The screen's coming down now. Ma'am?
Are there more ways to parse it than there are meanings?
There, in this particular case, there are, yes. Yeah. Write fast. Almost time. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so we'll look at that. We'll look at the rest of that sentence on Friday. Is that a phone? Is that an answer? If you look at the website, you will discover that a week from today, there's a midterm. That midterm is going to be the hardest damn thing you have ever done in your life. Until the final. Okay. Why is it going to be the hardest damn thing you've ever done in your life? Because you have had soft lives. And because it has questions from everything you've learned. That was good. Right? You will have to know how to parse. You will have to know how to transcribe. You will have to know how to do 50 push-ups up on the stage. Okay? Study everything. Sir?
No how, but can't physically.
That would be good enough. Look at me. Here's what I would do in preparing yourself for that midterm. I would look at the last midterm, and I would make sure that I could take it and get everything right. Okay? There will be a question, allophones or phonemes. Tell me the rule. There will be one of those. There will be a question, here's a sentence that has more than one parse. Show me them. Okay? There will be a question, here's a word that can be made up from morphemes. Show me how. There will be a question, oh, what does this say? And then a bunch of IPA garbage. Okay? Know how to do all of those things. You'll be fine. Sir?
Will we by any chance get the rules for parsing?
The rules for parsing. You mean the phrase structure rules?
Yes.
You mean the things that I'm asking you to learn?
Yes.
Okay. I'll give those to you. Yes, ma'am. 1 week from today, in this very room. Look now, this is the last time this room will ever seem pleasant to you. Okay? More than that, next week you have another homework due. You'll find it on the web page posted today. I'm in a particularly bad mood these days, and so I've decided that you must both study for this midterm, the hardest damn thing you will ever have done in your lives, and do this homework assignment in the same span of time. However, your TAs locked me in my room and coerced me into at least letting you hand this assignment in on Friday of next week, not Wednesday of next week. It's due Friday of next week. This homework assignment will be helpful in preparing for the midterm, so it has a double whammy utility. It is nothing more than asking you to parse sentences. Well, I lie. But at least 2 of the questions are like that. Here's one of them. The men and women in the back exchanged places. I want you to show me 2 ways of putting this sentence together according to our rules, and then to tell me what the difference in them is. Like, what do they mean, how do they mean different things? Okay? So the answer to this question will be 2 parses and 1 sentence for each of them telling me roughly what each of those parses mean. And the second question is very much like that. Here it is. A large dog chased the dwarf and bit the elf behind the tree. You know, it's just all violence and mayhem for me at this point. This sentence, I want you to show me 3 different ways of putting it together. 3 parses. If you see more than that, good for you. But just show me 3. And for each of those, again, tell me what the meaning is for that one. Okay? So an answer to this question is 3 parses and 3 sentences, 1 for each, that say what it means. And the last question, oh, you won't be able to do that until after this lecture. So let's have the lecture. Okay. Any questions about this so far? Ma'am?
Will we have a feature chart in the exam as well?
A feature chart. You want both? Look, already you want both the phrase structure rules and the feature chart. Does that seem reasonable to you guys? I mean, how is it a test even? Jeez. Okay. So all the sentences I've showed you so far, all the sentences I've shown you so far, put prepositional phrases and noun phrases and verb phrases together, and then arrange those artfully into sentences. But when I taught you the phrase structure rules of English, I also taught you that there's another kind of phrase that English has I called it a complementizer phrase. Complementizer phrases are, well, they're just garden variety sentences, but they start with a word that belongs to this part of speech that is known as a complementizer. The word that is a complementizer. Remember, I warned you that there's 2 that's in English. There's the that is the determiner that, and there's the that is the complementizer that. Okay? That. There are other words that are complementizers. The word whether is a complementizer, for instance, as in, I wonder whether he asked about coordination. Okay? So I thought I would start by just showing you some examples, since we haven't seen any, of how sentences that have these kinds of phrases in them are built. Here's one. The sentence is, someone regrets that he asked about coordination. So this is just a regular old sentence. It joins with the word that. Together they make something that joins with a verb phrase. So complementizer phrases are like prepositional phrases in joining with verb phrases to make a bigger verb phrase. That responds to the fact that you can have as many complementizer phrases in a verb phrase as you like, just as you can have as many prepositional phrases in a verb phrase as you like. This is a recursive structure. Complementizer phrases can be found inside verb phrases, and inside them are verb phrases. So you can get complementizer phrases inside complementizer phrases, which is not what that slide I just showed you shows. What the next slide does show you, though, is that complementizer phrases shows... Oh, yes, it does. Okay. You know, my morning meds. I've just oped the dosage. All right? You guys are all a fog for me. I can hear the laughter, and feel the pain, but that's all I can experience. Right? Yeah. So yes, just as I said, you can get complementizer phrases inside verb phrases, which are themselves those verb phrases, inside complementizer phrases, which of course are themselves inside verb phrases. Here's an example. Complementizer phrase inside a verb phrase. It has a verb phrase, and inside it, well, is another complementizer phrase. I didn't have enough room in this slide to show you what this complementizer phrase looks like, so I just abbreviated how it actually puts everything together with this triangle. I will do that sometimes, use this little triangle just to obscure what it really looks like. I can do that because I know what the hell I'm doing. You can't do that because you don't know what the hell you're doing. Was that too harsh? I feel like that might have been too harsh. Okay, so don't you ever even think of using one of these. If I see one of these, I will just crap my pants. Okay, good. All right, so there's some sentences that have complementizer phrases in them. And here's another one, but this one our rules can't yet make. Here it is. It is the table that the elf stood on. Okay. Here's the complementizer phrase. Here's the subject-noun phrase. And here's the verb of this sentence. It's is. Right. And we don't have a way yet of putting this together. In fact, this sentence right here isn't something we right now would consider possible, because it has the verb stood followed by a preposition, but this preposition doesn't have following it a noun phrase. Yeah. Right? On the other hand, we do understand that this, which is a noun phrase, is what should be here. I mean, the point is that this says the elf stood on the table. Right? Do you see that? So what's really odd about this sentence is that this noun phrase and this preposition together make a prepositional phrase, which modifies stood. And yet, they aren't, as our rules say they should be, right next to each other. This happens. Many sentences violate the phrase structure rules I've taught you because, mysteriously, the things that should have been put together to make a phrase have flown apart in this ugly and mysterious way. Today I'm going to show you a way of understanding, or at least of just recording, what happens in these cases. Okay, so we're going to learn a new rule. Yeah. So here's the rule. Here's the idea. Before I tell you this, I want you to cast your mind back to a pleasanter time in this class when we were talking about phonology. Okay? And when we were talking about phonology, what I taught you was that words, well, morphemes, are made up of phones, individual little sounds, right? And when you learn a word, what you learn is which particular string of sounds make a word. And then I taught you, well, but you know more than just that when you speak a word. You know, in addition to which particular sounds make it up, how they should be grouped. You have a rule that syllabifies them. So we learned about syllables and the rule that does that. Okay. In a certain respect, what I've taught you about syntax is just like that. You know something about which particular line of words makes a sentence. But you know more than that. You know how they are grouped. Yeah? And so I've taught you phrase structure rules. Phones are grouped into syllables for words. Words are grouped into phrases for sentences. Mm-hmm. And then in phonology I taught you, but there's more to it than that. It's also the case that the sounds that make up these words can change when they come out of your mouth. An unaspirated pa can become aspirated if it's in a certain place, for instance. There are rules that transform what a word looks like into something else. And what I'm about to teach you in syntax is exactly the same thing. There are rules of syntax that take the sentences that are the ones you're trying to speak, but change how you say them. Mm-hmm. In this case, what that rule does is it starts with this sentence. This is something our phrase structure rules can create. This sentence has a noun phrase and a verb phrase, and this verb phrase has a complementizer phrase in the right spot here after this verb phrase headed by is. And this complementizer phrase has a sentence in it which is complete. Here the preposition is followed by the noun phrase, the table. This is what you are saying. I mean, this is what you are communicating. But what comes out of your mouth is something that takes this and relocates it over here somewhere. So what we're looking at right now is a rule that says, if you want to say this, start with this, but change where something is pronounced. And now we have to figure out, well, where is this going to? All right? We call this operation movement because this is going from one place to another inside the sentence. And what we need to do is figure out, where is it going to? Are you with me so far? See me after class. Okay, so here's what we'll look at. I mean, it's a little hard to figure that out, so we're going to have to do some detective work. Okay? So, consider this sentence. It's the elf of the... It's the table that the elf stood on, so that's the one that I started with.
Really?
Is it this that's funny, or... Oh, I see, yeah. And then there's this. I always figure it's just my fly. The hat that it died under. Okay? So, this too, right, this is one of these sentences that has a preposition whose noun phrase is being spoken somewhere we don't expect it to be. Right? Now remember and. What and does is it says, over here is something, and over here is something, and these two things are exactly the same, and I'm making another one of them out of them. Okay? So, it must be then that to the right of and is something that to the left of and is another one of which. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is to the right of and? Well, there's this noun phrase, the hat. Okay. There's this complementizer phrase with something missing in it. But but that's way over here. So, like if we look at how we would package up these words that start to the right of and go rightwards, we could go, okay, the by itself is just a determiner. This isn't a determiner. The and hat is a noun phrase. Yeah? So if that's what this is bringing together, then there should be a noun phrase over here, but there really isn't. Right? Yeah? So it must be that this whole thing is one thing. And this whole, it's over here, isn't it? And this whole thing, and is putting together with this whole thing. Do you see that? Like, so what I'm doing is I'm just looking at the words that follow and I'm trying to figure out, well, what could they be made into that I see a matching one of on the other side of and? And the smallest thing to the right of and that I find matching on the left of and is this whole damn thing. Okay? So we know from this that the hat and the table, they are the things that moved here. We know that where they moved to is inside something that contains what they moved out of. Are you with me? So here's what we're going to say. We'll start with this sentence. This is the one our phrase structure rules allow us to make. This is what the sentence being tossed to you by some speaker is. But the rule is now going to kick in, and change the position of this guy. And it's going to put it inside something, I'll call it a noun phrase, that's made up of the thing that moves and the thing it moved out of. Do you see how I'm doing that? That's the thing that's being coordinated in this slide. Okay. All right. This construction is called by very, very, very dead grammarians a cleft. A cleft is a sentence that starts with "it is" and then has this funny garbage afterwards in which something has moved. I'm going to call this rule, the rule that does the thing we're looking at right now, a cleft rule. And here's what the rule looks like. If you have a sentence that looks like this, it starts with "it", its verb phrase is made up just of the verb "is", and there's a CP afterwards. Then here's what you can do. You can go into that CP. You can find any phrase at all. Alpha means noun, verb, preposition. So you can take a noun phrase, a prepositional phrase, a verb phrase, any phrase at all, grab it in that CP, and change this so that it looks like this. Put the thing you've grabbed here, make a new one of those, and put the CP from which this moved, without this, of course, now, here. Do you see? This will all be on the website. In fact, I've written this as lecture notes with real, honest-to-God prose. The cleft rule. This rule takes this, reaches into the CP, grabs the noun phrase, moves the noun phrase out of that CP, and then takes the noun phrase and the CP, puts them together, and makes a new noun phrase. That's just what that says. Okay? Here's another example. It can look in a CP, grab not the noun phrase, the table, but the whole prepositional phrase on the table. yank it out of that CP, take the prepositional phrase you've yanked, join it with the CP you've moved it out of, and what you'll make is another prepositional phrase. Okay? Yes?
You said that the piece that you're taking can be a verb phrase as well.
Yeah.
Would it not make sense to say it is true? Would that be alpha?
How about that? So here's an example with a verb phrase. So we would start with something like, it is that the elf should stand on the table. And then I move the verb phrase, stand on the table, forward, and I get, it is stand on the table that the elf should. Does that sound?
Yoda.
It sounds like Yoda. Yeah. Okay, I'll tell you what my TAs told me about this. They said, Professor, because that's how they address me. Yeah. Professor, people under the age of 85 don't speak that way. Ouch. Maybe they should have said Yoda. A really, really badass little dude. Okay. This is completely okay for me, but I'm told that it's not okay for people younger than me. So I'm not, maybe I have a different rule than you do. Okay. The cleft rule. Are you all right with this? So what I'm asking you in the homework assignment, the last question gives you a cleft. Here it is. It is, I've contracted these two, but it is a midterm that we should study for. What I want you to do in answering this question is show me the sentence this looked like before the rule building clefts kicked in. That parse is sometimes called a D structure. Okay? I want you to show me that parse. So I want you to find out where this moved from, put it back, and parse that. Then I want you to show me how the cleft rule made from that this.
So that's S structure.
And this is sometimes called S for surface structure, S structure. Okay, so that's what these two words mean. Are you with me? Best of luck on this. Today, again, we have ended early.